Good morning, everyone. My name is Francisco Sicilia. Today, we are going to be covering Florida scale insect management. We are going to give an extra minute for those that are still joining. So just hang on. There's a few more people joining. Thank you for joining us today. Well, good morning. It is 10:01. Thank you for joining us today here at Rainbow Ecoscience. Today, we're going to be covering a topic related to Florida scale insect management. I'll be talking to you about it for the next 30 minutes. A quick safety brief to start with. Please check your surroundings for any trip hazards that you may have around your desk or any areas where you are located. Please check the weather forecast for any inclement weather that may be coming your way. And if you are in a vehicle, please be parked on a safe location. My name is Francisco Sicilia. I'm the horticulturist specialist located in Fort Pierce, Florida. I support clients through for technical support throughout the Southeast on products, equipment, plant healthcare, plant growth regulators. And one of my favorite things that I do on my role is supporting you with any questions that you may have related to plant growth regulators, plant pests, and pathogen issues. I am a Florida certified pest control operator since around 2008. Have been working in the landscape maintenance industry since 2003 as well. I did graduated from Zamorano University in Honduras with a degree in agronomy, and I did also graduated from LSU from agribusiness. A few housekeeping items before we get started today. Very important, in Zoom, there is two chat boxes. We are gonna be using the Q&A box on your control panel to post your questions. So as you have any questions, please post them there. We will be answering them through at the end of the presentation. This webinar is being recorded and a link will be sent out after the webinar. This webinar is worth 1 ISA CU. If you did not enter your ISA certification number during the registration process, please type that into the Q&A box. That way we can submit your information to ISA. Very briefly, Rainbow Ecoscience is a nationwide plant healthcare company. And we average about 1,200 support calls from tree care and landscape maintenance tech support. We average about 150 unique research trials per year. And we have 8 core values that we live by every day in our company with our coworkers and our customers. For today, we have a few learning objectives. Number 1, we want to become familiar with scale insect issues in the landscape. And the other ones are being able to distinguish between armor and soft scale and what this is important. So this will help you on determining timing of products based on the scale species that you are trying to control on your landscapes and your trees. So first of all, what are scales? Scales are insects that belong to the order Hemiptera. They are part of what we know as piercing and sucking insects. So you may be more familiar with, in Florida, with aphids, whiteflies, leafhoppers, this type of insects. So they are all related. So what are scales? We have 5 different families that impacts our arborists and landscape professionals. The first one is soft scales, followed by armor scales. So these are the 2 most common types of scales that we are going to be dealing with in our environment. We also have felty scales, mealybugs, very common on shrubs, and we have giant scales as well. So it's very important that we are aware that scales are, for the most part, immobile, wingless, and lack a separate head or other recognizable body parts most of their life. When scales are abundant, the feeding can cause discoloration and distortion of the leaves, and shoots of plants may appear to be water distressed as well. High populations of some scale species can cause branch and terminal dieback, and also could show signs of reduced growth or stunting of your growth. The importance of infestations depends on the abundance of the species of scales. Your environmental factors you're dealing with at the time, natural enemies that you have or don't have in your areas, the plant species that you are having within your landscapes as your plant palette, and what plant healthcare practices do you have available at your disposal as well. So depending on the infestation levels and your client's tolerance, this becomes part of your protocols as well. Is how much time do I have to control this? That you're dealing with a client that is actually impatient or really is in real need of controlling that insect for different reasons. But this will determine your best management practices that you are going to be implementing on the process. So what's their impact on their properties? So let's start by looking at this tree. So this tree has a sign showing signs that it's not leafing out on the spring. So that's a sign that there is a problem with that tree. So it's important to take a look at that tree. You may have just gotten a call, like, my tree is dying, it's not growing. All the other trees on the street already leafed out, and this one is not. So that's a sign that there is a problem with that tree. So take a closer look to the tree. On taking a closer look to the tree, it was found that this tree had a gloomy scale. It's not a scale in Florida, but it's to show the example of what could happen, what signs that we find on the environment. So this infestation has weakened the ability of that tree to be able to leaf out in the process. So you could have been easily overlooking the scale because it resembles other insects, or it could blend in with the bark of this tree in this case. So we have an example of crepe myrtle trees. In this case, we have one on the left that is not really looking really well, it's not thriving, and we have one on the right that is thriving. So why is that? So that's a sign that that tree has some problems. So it's having leaves that are dropping, yellow leaves. The bark looks dark by looking at this picture. So those are signs that we can use as indicators that you may have an issue with a scale. In this case, it's a crepe myrtle that decreased the overall scale as a result of that crepe myrtle bark scale feeding on it. So as we see here closer, we can find it very evidently that is present on that tree completely throughout the trunk. So what are the other impacts we can have? There are some scales that produce honeydew that eventually develops into sooty mold, and it will be landing on those plants underneath, or cars or structures. You may have, like in this case, this vehicle that is parked on under that tree that has been there for a few months. This may be somebody that went up north and hasn't been back for a month or two, and the car completely got covered with sooty mold and honeydew. So that's an indicator. So let's jump into soft scales. Soft scales are up to 1/4 of an inch or larger. They are smooth or cottony on the way they look on the surface, and they are round. They feed on the phloem sap in the plant material, and they excrete a sticky honeydew. This is what causes the development of sooty mold. These scales produce a large amount of eggs, anywhere from hundreds to thousands of eggs per insect. Most have one generation per year. There could be some that have several generations per year. Most will overwinter as nymphs. So the typical cycle of the scales starts on the early springs, where the mature females scales lay their eggs. Eventually, towards May, June, those crawlers are gonna be emerging, moving into the leaves to feed. And as we go into the fall, they develop into the instars, where they are settling in those twigs and overwintering for the season. Armor scales, on the other hand, they are very small. They are less than 1/8 of an inch long. They have waxy shells. They don't produce honeydew, so compared to the soft scales. Most life stages are not mobile, and they don't produce as many eggs as soft scales. They produce less than 100 eggs per insect. Now, they do have several generations per year and an extended crawler emerge period as a result of that amount of generations they actually go through. And they can overwinter as nymphs and adults. Rainbow has developed a toolbox for scale management that involve different methods of application to be able to accommodate for those conditions that you are dealing with related to either your customer, your environment, the type of species that you are dealing with on scales, and actually plant material as well. So anywhere from foliar, bark sprays, tree injections, and soil injections are great solutions to be used to accommodate your specific conditions in the environment that you're working. In general, the life cycles of scales starts by the adults laying their eggs, and that's typically correlated to your springtime. And you're gonna have the instars, where the crawlers are gonna start moving into their feeding areas, and eventually they are gonna start settling into different instars until they become adults again, and they overwinter and become adults. Depending on which type of scales, they will either overwinter as a nymph, or they will either overwinter as nymphs and adults if they have that ability. So in general, for soft scale management, so there's different options to manage these type of scales. So these scales, we could manage them through foliar applications, either with peroxide, which is a insect growth regulator that can be applied to help manage them. It is a very good tool that is an alternative to using bifenthrin, which is very common, is pretty much a standard in the industry to kill insects in general. But it's more ecologically responsible due to the fact that it is a juvenile hormone mimic. This means that breaks the scale pest life cycle, and it does not cause mortality to beneficial insects. So it's something that helps a lot in the process when you're trying to be eco-friendly, if I can say that. So TransTech has an option where you could use it as a injectable foliar and also as a bark spray soil application. Cytex have the same possibilities, and horticultural oil can be used in the cooler months, and also could be mixed in small amounts to enhance the ability of peroxide as an adjuvant and improving the efficacy of these products. So these are great solutions depending on the conditions that you are trying to achieve. Now, a side note, Cytec could be used, but you have to use it like 30 to 120 days prior to the crawl emergence. So this is key to understand in the process of managing scales with Cytec. So you have to be very proactive in this case. Now in Florida, we deal with a lot of, we don't have a very marked seasonality, so we may have all life stages throughout the year. So it makes it very difficult to control them sometimes with Cytec, but they are a solution for that. Over time, they will get controlled. But if you are trying to get control more in the immediate scenario, I would go with a solution like TransTech in this case. In the other hand, we have armor scale management. So in this case, we have the same approach as we do have and options as we have for soft scales, but we are removing Cytec from this protocol because armor scales have cannot be controlled very effectively with imidacloprid or Cytec in this case. So it's very important to make sure you are IDing the type of scale that you are working with to be able to provide the proper protocol and timing to be able to control that insect promptly if you're trying to do that, if you already have a problem. TransTech is a great solution for armor scales. You could do bark applications or 3 injections, as well as soil applications. So be mindful that not all the injectables may be available in our state currently. So just keep in mind checking on the label and with us before buying the product. That way we can guide you which will be the best solution for Florida in this case. So let's start looking into some scales. So we have the hemispherical scale. This is a scale that affects many species. The most common species that we can find it on is Kundi palm, camellias, crepe myrtles, figs, and gardenias, just the most common ones. This particular scale could have 1 to 8 generations per year. This is has a wide variety, so we can have it present throughout the state in different life stages throughout the year. So make sure you choose the best protocol approach that you're trying to deal with to be able to control it. The next scale is a very common problem in our state, Slobel lac scale. This is a species of scales that could actually distortion the new growth and stunt the new growth on plant material, or promote dieback on the twigs or branches. If you're dealing with cocoa plum, that will be very common to find in cocoa plum, the dieback. You're dealing with green bottom wood trees, you could find it on it, and it will stunt the growth. So it will be very a good treatment for that will be something with TransTech to control it very quickly. Wax myrtle has it, ilex shillings, hollies, and wild tamarind. Just a side note, it could be very detrimental to the health of wild tamarins, even death on it. It has 8 to 12 month cycles, so it's a very extended cycle for these scales. Croton scale is very common in our crotons throughout Florida, where we have them. Also in guava and fig, mangoes, firebush. You can find it very widely throughout these species, even in low amounts on crotons. So great scale to be able to identify and manage. It's a soft scale. Tulip tree scale, you can commonly find it in our case, tulips and magnolias, and all life stages are present in the winter in Florida. So you might need to put management in place for this, even at that time of the year, there's not much overwintering for us. It just keep on generating new life cycles as we go through the season, as we don't have a determined winter as many other states do have available. Japanese blueberry scale is also a common scale on Japanese blueberries. We have it through all life cycles in the plants at once. It's several generations per year, so it's very easy to control, but you could have issues with it throughout in this plant. You can also get Florida wax scale in this plant material as well. I don't have that here, but is a common scale that we could be dealing with in the landscape as well. T-scale is commonly found on camellias and hollies. The first generations of crawlers happens around 149 growing degree days, but commonly we will find them to start to emerge around February all the way through November. Florida red scale is commonly found on citrus trees, hollies, palm trees, and there's about 70 other species that we can that has been found on. All life stages also are present throughout the season. That makes it a little tougher to manage, so you have to use a product that can actually control it for an extended period of time. Might need a couple of treatments a year to be able to achieve that control. Phantasma scale, I apologize, I have the wrong picture in it. Prevalent on palms and have significant damage that can be caused, that can cause even loss of entire fronts. I have seen canopies of coconut palms particularly that have turned very chlorotic, and it has like yellow spots throughout. It's not really easy to diagnose from the ground until you actually are able to remove some of the palm fronts as a result to be able to diagnose it properly. You may find also some mealybugs on coconuts that could be affecting at the same time. Crepe myrtle bark scale, very common on crepe myrtles and American beauty berries. You could have up to 4 generations. And they begin crawling early spring. The peak season for them to start crawling is April through May in Gulf states. This has been found already in some counties in Florida. So keep an eye for this pest. So already the ISA already announced it last year, and it has been on the look to make sure that we put management practices for it. If you need help diagnosing it and you're not sure, reach out to us or reach out to the University of Florida for proper diagnosis on it. Mealybugs is also a type of scale as well. So it has affects multiple species, commonly found on hibiscus. I have found it on copper leaves as well. And it has up to 15 generations per year, and it has a 20 to 30 day life cycle. So it's a very quick life cycle, and it keeps emerging. It's hard to control as a result, but you just gotta keep managing the pest and don't forget about it. So to wrap up, scale insects have a varied and interesting life cycle. So there's plenty of information about scales. It's very interesting. You learn a lot as you start reading about these particular insects. They have all very unique way of living. So it's important to know the species of scales that you're dealing with. That way we can, as professionals in the landscape maintenance industry and tree care industry, are able to provide protocols that will lead to excellent control. The only way to do that is to have proper diagnosis as a result for that process. So this This webinar has, this is the code for the ISAs CUs, but you don't need to do anything with it. But what I wanted to do is say is if you did not submit your ISA credentials to us on the registration process, please put them on the Q&A box, not on the chat box, but in the Q&A chat box. As far as from us, the benefits from working with us is we have technical support staff available for you throughout all the states and also available on the phone. And that you can reach out to us. Training for implementing our protocols. My job is dedicated to education and training. And we have e-learning opportunities like this one throughout the year. And it's important that you sign up and learn from it. We have this recorded and it will be in our library in our website. So if you know someone that could benefit from reviewing our material, please direct them to our website. So we are going to be now answering questions. So I'll be working with the Q&A box. And this is my contact information if you would like to reach out for any questions. Well, most questions have been answered, so there's one question here. Of the scales presented, what type of the scale for treatment purposes? So most scales that we presented here today, we either working with soft scales, and soft scales secrete honeydew. So that's one huge difference, and they are large scales. And the other scales are armor scales. So those armor scales are very small on size, and those you would like to use products like Transtech versus using imidacloprid. So we want to use dinotefteron products to be able to control those and get great control on the armor scales. Soft scales are easier to manage compared to armor scales. For Japanese blueberry trees, you would like to use, I would suggest to use Transtech. It's a product that covers all the scales, so that way you don't have to figure out, and it has a very extended control for the season. You could use also imidacloprid, but if you're dealing with an armor scale, imidacloprid is not a great solution for that. Any other questions? For tulip scale, if you have magnolia trees, yes, it will be extended to North Florida as well. It could be found there. Well, it was great to have everyone here today. Thank you for attending. Hopefully we get to see you in future webinars here as well. Thank you so much.